Hi, and welcome to our audiobook series brought to you by Burgapoly Publishing. Let the journey begin. Today we are presenting
Chapter 22, Battle at the Junkyard. Tom shifted in his seat, his restlessness building. How much longer before we get there? The shuttle drifted over the wall, slipping past the border from jungle to ruin. Ray barely glanced back. Not long. His voice was calm, but his eyes never left the horizon. Then, a flicker of something ahead. As a matter of fact, I think I see the junkyard. Max sat rigid, his eyes scanning the terrain. No signs of patrols. His tone was flat, observational, but laced with readiness. Tom exhaled sharply. That's a good sign, right? His voice held the barest tremor. Max didn't look at him. Yeah, kid. Then a pause. But let's not take any chances. Be ready. They descended, circling the yard, sweeping for threats. Below was a graveyard of machines. Old cars, rusted trucks, gutted spacecraft, forgotten remnants of an era no longer relevant. Ray took the controls carefully, easing the shuttle down. It settled beside a crumbling structure, its metal walls stained by time and neglect. They opened their doors. Ray unstrapped himself. All right, let's move. The wind kicked up dust as they ducked low, moving swiftly to the building. Ray reached for the door, pulled, but it didn't budge. His jaw tightened. He tried again. Nothing. In frustration, he slapped the door. Great, it's locked. His palm struck the metal frame, the sound ringing through the empty lot. Look around. We need something to pry it open. They fanned out, searching. Scott had something in his hands. Here's something. He hefted a solid metal rod, rusted but sturdy. Max took it without hesitation. Stand back. His grip tightened as he wedged the rod into a seam, muscles strained. A deep, guttural grunt as metal groaned in protest. They heard a snap. The door handle collapsed, clattering to the ground in pieces. The door shuddered open slightly. The victory was short-lived, though. They stared. A layer of thick black metal bars lined the entrance. Tom let out a low whistle. This place sure is secure. Max tested the bars with the rod. A deep breath, a flex of force. Nothing. Again. Strain. Again. Resistance. Then the sound of the rod hitting the ground. Max exhaled, shaking his head. Ray crossed his arms. No use. These bars are too thick. A pause, and then his voice lowered. We need another way in. Scott's voice cut through the heavy air. There are some chains over here. He pointed toward a pile near the rusted wall of the building. Ray's eyes snapped to the chains. Then, realization. Hey, kid, I know what you're thinking. His tone shifted, turning decisive. Max, wrap this end around the bars. Max was already moving. Ray turned to John. Underneath the shuttle, you'll see a bar. Attach the other end of the chain there. Then to the group. Everybody stay out of the way. Ray took off toward the shuttle, climbing into the cockpit. The engines hummed as he reversed, repositioning the vehicle near the entrance. Meanwhile, Max secured his end of the chain around the thick black bars, his movement swift and practiced. John crouched near the belly of the shuttle, hands tightening as he hooked the other end of the chain in place. Max gave a sharp nod. The signal was clear. The moment was set. Ray's grip tightened on the controls. Then, acceleration. The shuttle lurched forward in a burst of power. A groan. Metal screaming. Then, detonation. The bars ripped free, exploding outward in a cloud of dust and shattered debris. Ray eased the shuttle down again. Max ran forward, unhooked the chains, and threw a thumbs up. Ray lifted the shuttle again, this time setting it down closer to the now gaping wound in the building. Then, urgency. Come on, let's grab the part and get out of here. Ray's voice was sharp as he leaped from the shuttle. The others burst from their cover, following him into the darkened structure. The air inside was thick, laced with the scent of old oil, dust, and decay. Tom's eyes scanned the gloom. How are we supposed to see where this part is? Scott's fingers found the wall. A click. Old fluorescents flickered, humming to life. Ray exhaled, smirking. That's better. Thanks, kid. Then to the group, let's split up. John, Chi, Tom, you're with me. Max, take the other two. Let's move. The group fractured, each stepping into the unknown. Dark hallways stretched like veins into the heart of the building. Ray pushed open a rusted door, peering inside. There should be a parts room somewhere. Then Max's voice, loud, unmistakable. Hey, Ray, I think we found the part. Ray straightened. How do you know? His voice echoed down the corridor. Max's reply was dry, edged with his usual humor. Because it looks like the part, and it has your name on it. Ray's pace quickened. The three with him turned, following toward the other group. Max stood next to a large metal crate, arms crossed, unimpressed. Ray glanced down. There, on the label, in bold print, his name. He let out a breath. Yeah, that's it. A pause, then a grin. Let's get out of here. Max let out a short, exasperated breath. Isn't that what I just said? Ray grinned, undeterred. Yeah, okay, come on. Let's get it loaded up and get out of here. Max didn't wait for further discussion. He waved them back, his massive arms clearing space. Stand back, I got it. He bent down, gripped the part, and lifted it effortlessly. The metal crate rested on his shoulder like it weighed nothing. Without another word, he followed the others back down the hallway, moving toward the gaping hole in the wall where the shuttle waited. Then, fire. The first plasma blast sizzled past their heads, striking the wall behind them in a burst of sparks. A second blast followed, closer. The group dropped to the ground. I think we might have company, Tom shouted, his voice edged with panic. Ray's response was immediate. Turn that light off. She reached up and slapped the switch. Darkness swallowed them again. She slid back down, breath steadying, her fingers already pulling the gun from her holster. The others moved cautiously. Max lowered the part behind him, making sure it was out of harm's way. Then he moved. His footsteps were silent, and he reached the edge of the hole, pressing himself against the wall. Ray appeared at his side. See anything? He whispered. Max's head moved slightly. Not yet. He leaned out, just barely, then plasma fire. Two more blasts streaked into the room, scorching the air and leaving molten scars on the metal walls behind them. Ray's jaw tightened. Everyone okay? A collective yes came from the others, though their voices carried the weight of barely contained fear. Ray exhaled. His mind moved quickly, instinctively. Get back into the hallways. His voice was low, commanding. Max and I will take care of this. She hesitated, gun raised. Ray's hand came down on hers. She looked at him. His expression was grim, certain. If they take us out and come after you, his voice was steady even. Don't hesitate. A long, silent moment until she nodded. Max turned to Ray, checking his weapon. You ready? Ray exhaled, releasing Chi's gun. Yeah, let's go. Max's eyes swept across the junkyard. The shots came from behind those junked cars. His voice was quiet, methodical. If you cover me, I'll make my way behind that old truck. Circle around. I can flank them. Ray nodded once. Let me know when you're ready. Max waited, counting his breaths. Then after a second, he tapped Ray's arm. Ray moved first. Two quick, controlled shots burst from his weapon, forcing their attackers to duck behind cover. Max didn't hesitate. He moved fast, low, weaving between wreckage, disappearing into the maze of rust and debris. More plasma fire cut through the air, directed at Ray. Max kept moving. He reached the crates, moved past them. Crouched behind a rusted-out car, he studied the movement ahead. Only one man, armed, focused on Ray. He didn't sense that Max was there. Max stood quietly. His voice was measured and absolute. Drop the weapon. The man jumped and froze in place. A second heartbeat stretched in the air. The man stiffened with the realization that Max was behind him, and he was out of time. A split second of hesitation, calculation. Max saw it, the silent war playing out in his head. Then he decided to drop the gun. His hands rose slowly, deliberately. He didn't turn around. Max kept his weapon steady. Then, a voice, smooth, confident, from the shadows. You can pick your gun back up, Len. Another figure emerged, weapon raised, aimed directly at Max. A standoff. Then, another shift in the game. Ray's voice, low and certain, carried a weight that changed everything. "I wouldn't do that, Len." The other man froze. Ray was behind him, gun pressed to his head. The air tightened. No movement, no sound. Suddenly recognition. The man with the raised gun let out a dry chuckle. Lowering his weapon, he turned slowly. "I know that voice." A smirk. "You're the guy I'm holding a part for." Ray's expression shifted slightly, surprised. "Wait, you own this place?" The man crossed his arms. "That's right." Ray exhaled, shaking his head. "Then why the hell were you shooting at us?" The man shrugged. "Why the hell were you tearing up my place?" Ray huffed. "I needed my part, and you were closed." The owner let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "We're being invaded, in case you haven't noticed." His expression hardened. "You think we're keeping normal hours?" Max's head jerked toward the junkyard. Something. Movement. His eyes narrowed. "Did you come with other people?" Len frowned, squinting into the darkness. "No, just us two." "Why?" Max's grip tightened. His voice dropped into a low whisper. "I heard something out there." Two plasma blasts sliced past them, searing the air. They hit the ground in bursts of heat and smoke. Instinct took over. Everyone dove for cover, crawling behind the wreckage for protection. Max's hand shot up to his ear, making sure he still had two ears. "That was close," he muttered. Ray peered at him. "You good?" Max let out a slow breath. "Yeah, I think so." His fingers ran over his ear once more, just to be sure. Then, a shift. The soldier in him took over. He turned to Ray. "The three of you go back to the building. I'll circle around. Whoever is out there, I'll handle it." Ray's jaw tensed. "Be careful, Max." Max gave a short nod. Then, like a shadow slipping into the void, he moved. Ray gestured to the others. "Let's move." They scrambled toward the building, keeping low, hearts pounding. More blasts rained down, scorching the ground as they ran. Max veered the other way. He disappeared into the maze of rusted metal and wreckage, weaving through the junked vehicles. Silent, hunting, waiting for his moment. Max moved with practiced silence, slipping into a strategic position among the wreckage. He lowered himself, his breath steady, his mind calculating angles, timing, escape routes. Then he saw them. Three figures, larger than him, taller, heavily armored, chameleons. They moved with deliberate menace, their weapons sweeping methodically over the yard, scanning for movement. Max inhaled once, slow, deliberate. He raised his weapon, lined up his sights, squeezed the trigger. A burst of light, then another, and another. Two shots found their mark. One of the chameleons staggered, faltered, and then collapsed. The other two snapped toward him immediately, their instincts razor-sharp. Max barely had time to throw himself down as a storm of plasma bolts tore through the wreckage around him. The car he hid behind was shredded, molten metal hissing in the air. He wouldn't last here. He needed to move fast. There was movement from the other side of the yard. Ray, Len, and the owner had doubled back, drawn by the firefight. They spread out, took cover, and opened fire. A fresh hail of blaster fire cut through the air, forcing the chameleons to shift their attention. The one that was hit slowly got back up. Max seized the moment. He rolled, pushing himself low, sprinting behind a hulking mass of old construction equipment. His back pressed against the cold metal. It was a better position, a cleaner shot. He had all three chameleons in his sights now. Max exhaled once, slowly, and fired. 1, 2, 3 rounds. Another shot landed, striking a chameleon in the back. The being stumbled forward but didn't fall. The armor held. A slow, deliberate turn. Plasma bolts ripped toward Max's new position. He barely ducked in time. The firefight raged on. No more hesitation. No more room for error. It was kill or be killed. "Where are you going?" Tom's voice was sharp, edged with uncertainty. John barely turned. "They need help." Tom exhaled, glancing toward the firefight still raging outside. "They told us to stay inside." John's expression didn't change. "Stay put, I'll be back." Before he could step out, a hand reached toward him. "Valerie. Here, you might need this." She pressed her gun into his hand. John hesitated, then nodded. "Thanks." He moved fast, slipping through the hole in the wall, keeping low as he rushed toward a pile of debris. As he raised his head, a figure suddenly appeared beside him. His heart jumped. "What are you doing?" he hissed, catching his breath. "Chi." She crouched next to him, calm, resolute. "I'm coming with you." John met her gaze. It was steady, certain. She had already decided. There was no point in arguing. He let out a slow breath. "Fine. I was thinking, if we make our way over there, we should have a clear shot without hitting Ray and the others." Chi didn't hesitate. "Let's go." She was already moving. "Wait for me," John muttered under his breath as he hurried after her. They dashed to cover, ducking behind an old land-clearing tractor. John raised his gun. Nothing. His stomach sank. "It's not firing," he whispered, panic creeping into his voice. Chi didn't even glance at him. "Do you have the safety on?" John turned the gun over, staring at it as if it had betrayed him. "Where's that at?" Chi sighed. Without hesitation, she handed him her own weapon. Then she took his, flipped it over, and pressed a button. A soft click. "Are you ready?" John's grip tightened. Chi peered over the tractor, lining up her sights. "Make your first shots count. We won't get another opening like this." She fired. Several bright bursts tore through the air, slamming into two chameleons. One collapsed instantly. The other staggered, armor absorbing most of the impact, but not enough. John saw his shot. He fired. The third chameleon jerked back, stunned. John didn't wait. He burst from cover, sprinting toward them. The staggering chameleon recovered faster than expected. He whirled around, weapon rising. John saw the muzzle flash. Dove. Rolled. The blast barely missed, searing the air where he had been moments ago. Chi fired again, her shots finding their mark. The chameleon let out a sharp, guttural sound. This time he didn't get up. The remaining two stayed low, returning fire. Then the rest of the humans opened fire. A sharp, brutal exchange. Then, silence. John reached the fallen bodies, chest heaving. Chi arrived beside him, her fingers white-knuckled around her gun. They stared at what they had done. Max strode up, kicking away the weapons, ensuring the chameleons were no longer a threat. "Hey, where did you two learn to do that?" Ray's voice carried a note of something between approval and surprise. John exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I played a lot of laser tag." Chi, still catching her breath, spoke without hesitation. "My father took me target practicing." Ray let out a short laugh, shaking his head. Max was less amused. His eyes flickered back toward the open junkyard. "We need to go." His voice was firm. "Those guys probably called for backup. If we don't leave now, this place is going to be crawling with chameleons soon." A new voice cut in from behind them. Rough. Uncertain. "You could use a couple of extra hands on your ship, right?" The junkyard owner stepped forward. Max turned to him, expression unreadable. Len let out a shaky breath, glancing around the junkyard as if seeing it for the first time. "Yeah, I don't think I want to stick around this place anymore." Ray didn't hesitate. "I think we can find a use for you two." A pause, then a sharp nod. "Grab those weapons. Let's get moving." Max's voice came next, calm but pointed. "You two have something to drive? We don't have room for you in our shuttle." The junkyard owner smirked. "No problem. We'll follow you." No more words, just action. They hurried back into the building, loading the precious ship part into the shuttle. Len and the owner climbed into their dust-streaked truck, its engine coughing to life. Engines flared. Vehicles pulled away. Then fire. The air ripped apart with sudden plasma blasts, streaking past them, too close. Ray's voice exploded over the noise. "We got company!" The shuttle pitched downward. Everyone sank into their seats, inertia slamming them back as Ray fought for control. A hard swerve right. Another dodge left. A fireball erupted behind them, sending metal debris flying in all directions. Ray's stomach clenched. "Did those come from the ground? Or is something chasing us?" he shouted, yanking the controls. Max was already looking, scanning the chaos. "Ground fire," he shouted back. Then his eyes locked on the wreckage. Smoke, twisted metal, no survivors. He let out a breath, flat, unreadable. "Doesn't look like we need to worry about extra passengers anymore." Ray's grip tightened on the controls. Why did they get hit? Max didn't flinch. "Because they weren't us." Ray's jaw clenched. Then a glance toward the wreckage. Fleeting, but enough. "Yep, they're toast." He pushed the shuttle lower, skimming dangerously close to the treetops. "Everyone better hope we don't hit another patrol." The shuttle leveled out, engines screaming as he increased speed. They streaked back toward camp, fire and destruction marking the land beneath them. A graveyard of skirmishes long settled. No further pursuit, no more fire. Finally, they reached the protective barrier. Crossed it. The jungle swallowed them again. Tom let out a dry, exhausted chuckle. "I see we made it back to our familiar, dense jungle." Valerie's head slumped against the window. "We just can't seem to get away from it." Scott, ever the pragmatist, exhaled. "Considering most of this planet is dense jungle, we should probably get used to it." No one argued, because for now they had survived.
Thanks for listening to another chapter of Into the 6th Millennium, The Invasion of Zephro. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss future audiobooks. You'll find links below to get the book, explore more titles from the series, and grab official merch. We've also included some affiliate links to the tools we use to bring this project to life.